37, verse number 5. What are we going to do? Genesis 37, verse 5 through 11.
Yes.
I want to have Kenny read.
Now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him still more. And he said to them, listen now and hear, I pray you, this dream that I have dreamed. 7. We brothers were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaf stood around about my sheaf and bowed down. 8. His brothers said to him, shall you indeed reign over us? Or are you going to have us as your subjects and dominate us? And they hated him all the more for his dreams and for what he said. 9. But Joseph dreamed yet another dream and told it to his brothers also. He said, see here, I have dreamed again, and behold, this time not only 11 stars, but also the sun and moon bowed down and did not reverence to me. 10. And he told it to his father as well as his brethren. But his father rebuked him and said to him, what is the meaning of this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers actually come to bow down ourselves to the earth and do homage to you? 11. Joseph's brothers envied him and were jealous of him. But his father observed the saying and pondered over it.
Okay, so this is going to deal with people. You know God has given you a dream, or you know how God has given you something to do in life, or you know God has given you a purpose.
All right.
One thing when God gives you a purpose or a dream, what tends to happen is that it's not usually something that's in the same in line with what your fellow friends are doing. Usually, you're going to have haters.
Yes.
Now, Joseph had haters,
Yes.
which happened to be his brothers. Now, he had haters. Now, when you have a dream, or when you have a vision, or when you have a purpose, you're going to have haters. You're going to have people who are jealous of you. And unfortunately, a lot of times, that could be in your family. So even though Joseph had haters and jealousy, God still gave him that dream, and he kept that dream. So I want to know, when you have a purpose, or when you have a dream, or when God has called you to something, you can't look at what people are saying about you.
Yes.
You can't look at the haters. People are going to be jealous of you.
All right.
Yes.
So we're going to go to Genesis 39 now, 1 through 6. And before we read that, here we have Joseph telling his brothers, basically, I'm going to be basically a leader over you.
Yes.
So like that. He's telling his brothers, I'm going to be a leader over you. You're going to bow down before me.
Yes.
What's going to happen? This is what he told his brothers.
Yes.
And as a result, his brothers got jealous, and they sold him to slavery.
Yes.
Now we're going to pick up at the story in Genesis 39, 1 through 6.
1. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain and chief executioner of the royal guard, an Egyptian, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him down there. 2. But the Lord was with Joseph,
Yes.
and he, though a slave, was a successful and prosperous man.
Yes, Lord.
And he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. 3. And his master saw the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to flourish and succeed in his hand. 4. So Joseph pleased Potiphar, and found favor in his sight, and served him.
Yes, Lord.
And his master made him supervisor over his house, and he put all that he had in his charge. 5. From the time that he made him supervisor in his house, and over all that he had, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the Lord's blessing was on all that he had in the house
Yes.
and in the field.
Yes.
6. And Potiphar left all that he had in Joseph's charge, and paid no attention to anything he had,
Yes.
except the food he ate. Now Joseph was an attractive man and fine looking. 7.
Okay, so here we have Joseph sold into slavery. Potiphar buys him and puts him in his household. Now, at this particular time, we told you earlier that Joseph told his brothers and his father that he's going to be a leader over them.
Yes.
Now, he gets into this man's household. He didn't say, I'm going to be a leader. He didn't mention that at all. Last time he mentioned that, people got got jealous and they hated of you. So sometimes you can't tell people everything
You
God
can't.
has told you.
Yes, you can.
You know, you're going to have haters coming after you.
Yes,
But
you can.
instead of Joseph not telling what was going on, he showed them that he was a leader. And by him showing that he was a leader, he got more responsibility.
Yes.
So sometimes God gives you a vision and it has to come to pass or purpose. Whatever he gives you at the moment, be a good steward in that so that you're able to handle that. And God will continue to elevate you. So at this point, he is not a leader over many nations. He's not a leader at this point, but he is a leader in this household.
Yes.
So it may look like from the outside that he is a failure. You know, he told his brothers, you're going to be bowing before me. And at this point, all his brothers think that he's sold into slavery. So at this point, it doesn't look like he's that leader that they're talking about. And sometimes your family friends, they're going to look at you and say, it don't look like she's doing what she was supposed to be doing. It don't look like this. It don't look like that. Once again, you can't be worried about what people are saying.
Yes.
Just a sidebar, I'm talking about a couple of people in history who were told things, but obviously they didn't listen to them. We're going to talk about Walt Disney right quick. Walt Disney got fired from a job and told he was fired because he lacked imagination.
Yes.
Now, what happened if he would have took that word that they gave him and decided, you know what, I do lack imagination, and just sat back and didn't listen? You can't let people's words affect what God has told you.
Yes.
And that, he didn't do that. Now, could you imagine if there was no wonderful, Disney World or Mickey Mouse? He didn't let other people's words affect what he was going to do.
Yes.
Same thing with Oprah. She was demoted in television. They demoted her from an anchor and told her, you have no place on television.
Yes.
Now, if she would have took that word, once again, these words are really seeds people are planting in you, but she dug up that seed.
Yes,
Some of them seeds people planted you and said, you ain't this, you ain't that. You got to dig up them seeds. You can't let what people say affect you. And now then we have Einstein. Einstein didn't speak till he was 4 years old. And people around him said he would amount to nothing. Once again, we know that's not the case. He's probably one of the smartest men in history. Once again, when God has given you something, he has given you a vision.
Yes.
You can't let what people say around you affect you. Somebody give you a negative seed and it doesn't belong in your garden, you need to dig it up.
Dig it up.
Dig it up. By
Yes.
saying the opposite of what they're saying, doing the opposite of what they're saying. You can't be affected by what people are saying to you, even if it doesn't make sense. Sometimes when people fail, like right now this looks like a failure, you may fail because God's trying to get you into another position, trying to get you away from the people. Some of these people you can't be around to just do the things God called you to do. And it causes you to look like a setback or a failure. It isn't a setback or a failure. He's positioning or moving you away from some of these people. Amen?
Yes.
All right. So here we have, he's sold into slavery. I was just going to catch you up. As he's sold into slavery, he works in Potiphar's house. He does good things. He's putting over a steward. He's running the household really good. And then what happens? Potiphar's wives want Joseph. She wants him as her man, per se. But Joseph decides that he's not going that route. And he ends up in jail. Once again, it's looking like a failure, right?
Yes.
It's looking like he's not doing too good. When stuff is looking like it's not looking too good, though, he keeps getting setback after setback. Sold into slavery, goes into a house, does good, put in jail. I mean, what worse? He keeps setback after setback. But this setback is actually setting him up for his future. Okay? All right, so now he's in jail. Genesis 39, 19 and 23.
And when Joseph's master heard the words of his wife, saying to him, this is the way your servant treating me, his wrath was kindled.
Yes.
20. And Joseph's master took him and put him in the prison, a place where the state prisoners were confined. So he was there in the prison. 21. But the Lord was with Joseph.
Yes.
And showed him mercy and loving kindness, and gave him favor in the sight of the warden of the prison. 22. And the warden of the prison committed to Joseph's care all the prisoners who were in the prison.
Yes.
And whatsoever was done there, he was in charge of it. 23. The prison warden paid no attention to anything that was in Joseph's charge, for the Lord was with him and made whatever he did to prosper.
Okay, so here we have this man sold into slavery, put in prison. Now, he was in prison for at least 2 years. But in prison, he actually rose in ranks. Now, he didn't go around bragging again that I'm a big leader. But once again, he showed them that he was going to be leader. See, one thing, Joseph, he did not complain. Even though it's not looking like when God told him, he didn't complain. He said, Lord, whatever position you're putting me in,
Yes.
I'm going to be a good steward over that position. I'm not going to complain. Even when he was accused of rape, he didn't complain because he just stuck with the promise that God had for him.
Yes.
So when God gives you promises and the setbacks were just getting him, these setbacks were getting more. He wasn't more forward. He kept going backwards and backwards and backwards and backwards. But it was positioning him to get them an ear for Pharaoh. Now, he's all the way with his father. How would Pharaoh even know about Joseph if he was with his father, with the flock, with the sheep, with his brothers? How would he know about them? How would he get to where he needed to be?
Yes.
So what looked like a setback to everybody else was just a form of positioning. So failure may be a form of positioning to get you in the place that you need to be in. And so here we have Joseph in a place he needs to be in. He needs to have Pharaoh's ear.
Yes.
And he does have Pharaoh's ear because in prison he interpreted two people's dreams. And as a result of that, one person remembered him. And it was when Pharaoh had a dream, it was time for an interpretation. And that's what we're going to pick up on the story. Genesis 41:33 through 44.
So now let Pharaoh seek out and provide a man discreet, understanding, proficient, and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt as governor. 34. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him select and appoint officers over the land.
Yes.
And take 1/5 of the produce of the whole land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years, year by year. 35. And let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming, and lay up grain under the discretion, direction, and authority of Pharaoh.
Yes.
And let them retain food in fortified granaries in the cities.
Yes.
36. And that food shall be put in store for the country against the 7 years of hunger and famine that are to come upon the land of Egypt, so that the land may not be ruined and cut off by the famine. 37. And the plan seemed good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of his servants.
Yes.
38. And Pharaoh said to his servants, Can we find this man's equal, a man in whom is the Spirit of God? 39. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Forasmuch as your God has shown you all this, there is nobody as intelligent and discreet and understanding and wise as you are.
All right.
40. You shall have charge over my house, and all my people shall be governed according to your word, with reverence, submission, and obedience. Only in matters of the throne will I be greater than you are.
Yes.
41. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt.
So now you see he's set over all the land of Egypt. At this point, he has been elevated to a leader.
Yes, he is.
So I'm just going to just fast forward the story. He has been elevated to a leader. Now, his brothers, they needed food, so they came and they eventually had to bow down to him, just like that dream said. So the dream did come true.
Yes.
But I just want to encourage everybody to know when there's a failure or it looks like there's a setback, it really isn't a failure. It really isn't a setback. It's just a setup to what God has for you.
Yes.
It's just a way of positioning you into the right place, you with the right people. That's all it is. And also, don't be discouraged by what people are saying about you. Remember, these are negative seeds that are coming towards you. When you get them seeds, if they don't line up with what the Lord told you your purpose was, no matter how crazy that purpose is, you got to dig that seed up. You can't believe that seed. You cannot let that stop you from what God has for you. Also, whatever place or position you are currently in, you got to honor that position. Remember, Joseph honored every place and position he was in. He didn't say, look, when he first got there day one, I'm supposed to be a leader. I need to be over this. This is where I need to be.
Yes.
He didn't do that at all. But what he did, he showed it in his actions and his attitude.
Yes.
So wherever God has for you, whatever dream or interpretation he has for you, go after that.
Yes.
Don't let it stop you. Even if it seems crazy to other people, it wasn't for them. It was for you.
All right.
So if it seems crazy, it doesn't matter. Go after it. If people around you are talking about you or surrounding you, take that as an opportunity to say the opposite of what they're saying.
Yes.
You cannot let that stop you. And you cannot look at where you're at. What if he would have looked at where he was at? He was in prison. He was in somebody's household. He wasn't a leader.
Yes.
He was sold as a slave.
Yes.
What if he looked to where he was at? Where would he be?
My God.
You can't look at where you at. I'm sorry, you can't look at where you at. You got to look at what God told you, and then
Yes.
what God is telling you.
Yes.
You got to get your attitude lined up to where you are now.
Yes.
So where you're at now, your attitude, it will cause you, because his attitude caused him to be a leader naturally, right?
Yes,
He was a
yes.
leader naturally.
Yes.
His attitude caused him. He didn't soak to the fact, well, I'm a slave, I guess I'm not going to go ahead and be that leader. He didn't do that. He shut his mouth up and behaved as a leader. He was
Yes,
supposed to
Lord.
be.
Yes,
And got
Lord.
elevated.
Yes,
So no
Lord.
matter what God is telling you, if you're not there, it doesn't matter. Behave as if you are there.
Yes.
Okay, and then it will start attracting. You know, stuff will start coming towards you, it'll attract things towards you. But if you throw out that negative energy and be like, oh, well, this and that, guess what? You're going to be, oh, well, this and that, right on your couch.
Amen.
Yes.
You are. You got to act as if you already are.
Yes.
You know, you got to act as if you already are a music executive, producer. You know, no matter what. Well, that Myra, I can't believe she's going down to Minnesota. She ain't going to be nothing down there. Can't do that. You can't let people affect what they're saying to you. You just got to go for it. And you got to have the attitude like, I know what God told me. No matter what you didn't know. You got to have the attitude like, I know what God told me.
Yes.
You know? No matter what this, and if you get setbacks or failures, it don't matter. Just look at it as a setup or positioning. God is positioning you around the right people. He's positioning you around right people. It don't matter, you know. If it's a move, you're moving. He's positioning you. Don't look at nothing as a setback or a failure, ever. Just keep in mind. I remember when I was in college, and all I kept keeping in mind, because I had a few setbacks and a few failures, but I had to keep in mind, no matter what people were telling me, I had to keep in my mind, I kept picturing that I was crossing that stage in my black robe. When I felt like I was failing, I just kept picturing myself. I had to get a mental picture of myself with that robe and with that headpiece on, because if I didn't, I don't know. I don't know where I would be. So if you got to get a mental picture, if you got to vision yourself wherever you need to be, then do that then. But just hold on to what God is telling you. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yes.